Hi everybody, this is Oksana. Today we're making a mini double stone pendant like this. It's got a little peach moonstone on the bottom there and a little labradorite on the top. Here's what it looks like from the back. And if you have noticed, there's a new join button down below there. Thank you so much to everybody that's already clicked on that and that has become a member of Oksana Crafts. But if you haven't, I hope you'll check it out. It's a really cool new membership feature. And there's different perks like seeing my videos a week early, and I also auction off all the jewelry that I make in my tutorials. So it's really fun. I hope you'll check it out. So let's get started making this pendant. Alright, so the wires we're going to be using is the 24 gauge half round wire. This is dead soft copper, riogrande.com. And for our base wires, we're going to be using 21 gauge square copper. This is also dead soft, also from Rio Grande. So you're going to need 3 pieces. Mine are about 10 inches long. And then my stones, I have a little round Labradorite. That's about 10 millimeters in size. So that's a little less than half an inch. And then I have a little oval stone, a little oval peach moonstone. That's a little smaller. So it's about 7 millimeters in size, tall. In terms of how wide it is, maybe 6 millimeters. I mean, it doesn't matter. This is like very specific. I'm measuring it so you know what kind of stones I'm working with, but you don't have to get something with these exact measurements. Just anywhere in the ballpark is fine, or you know, it can be bigger as well. If they are quite a bit larger, like significantly larger, like it's no longer a mini pendant, you can use 20 gauge wire instead of 21 and still follow along and do this design. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my 3 wires in the middle. I'm going to use my half round wire here, and I'm just wrapping the flat side of the wire down around and around. I just grab myself a little tail end, and that's all you're gonna need. If you grabbed yourself a really small tail end and you need to wrap the wire that's attached to the spool, you can't just go around and around because it'll get twisted since it's half round. So you have to twist the actual wires and just with your hand guide the wire. So those are your 2 options of how to make this portion of it. And then I'm just going to trim the little wire ends, and I'm going to trim them so they are both on the same side. So let me just zoom in for a second here. So they're both on the same side, and I'm pinching them flat. And in terms of how many wraps, it doesn't really matter a whole lot, as long as it isn't like 2 or 3, but anywhere from 4 and up should be fine. So I think I have 7 little wraps there. So what I've been finding lately that makes it easy to make a little curvature there on the bottom for our stone is just to grab it with anything that kind of has a rounded end to it, like these pliers here, these bail making pliers. Ooh, zooming out. And this way we've made like a little curve there for our stone. And our stone is quite small, so if you have a bigger stone, obviously you would use a bigger section of those pliers. That works for your particular stone. So for my stone, we're gonna do this, and then we're just gonna squish these wires together, and I like to just put like a little indent into them with my fingers, if you can see me doing that. And that helps bring those together. And you can also reinforce that a little bit with your pliers. Reinforce that bend, making it kind of sharper like this. So now we're gonna grab, you know what, actually I'm just gonna cut off a piece of the half round wire so that it reaches more easily. I'll measure it for you, 8 inches. So I'm grabbing a piece of the half round wire and I'm wrapping it around just like it ends up being 3 wraps. Let me zoom in. Like this. And now you want to take this little end and just pull it through here, right through the center. Just pull on it like that. And now we're gonna bring it back to the back. So see, we made a little wrap there. And now we're gonna go here to the other side. So here in the back, it's going all the way across until it gets to the front. And then we're gonna put it through again, this time from front to back. And I'm just gonna pull that. Need to kind of move it up a little. So now, here it is here on the back. And we would normally kind of trim off this little wire end and just pinch it in there so it doesn't stick out, trim it short enough so that it's hidden in the frame. But I would actually recommend that we're gonna leave that for last, because as we work on this pendant and we kind of open up this frame to make the other stone fit, it starts pulling on these wires and they can get a little separated. So it's nice to have this long piece if you need to pull it back and tighten it. So I would leave trimming it off for last just due to that. So what you want to do now is you want to separate your wires in such a way that these 3 wires are separated from these 3 wires. So the wire from each side separated. And actually, after you do that, before we do anything else with the other stone, I think it's helpful just to put this little stone in there and lock it in place. That way we're not worrying about that. So what I'm gonna do, and you can do this first part without the stone, it might be a little easier, but here on the back, just make sure you grab the backmost wire and not accidentally like 2 wires or anything, and you put a little bend into it. And another little bend on the other side like that. So now, when we pop our stone in, it doesn't fall backwards. And we're gonna go on the front here, the frontmost wire. Sometimes it helps me to just use my nail to make a little separation there so I can wedge my pliers in there. These pliers are linked down below. They're the Xuron tweezer nose, and they have really thin little points there, which makes it much easier to get into these really tight places. Like that. So now the bottom stone is locked in place. Sorry, I'm just kind of opening this up a little bit. It's locked in place, and see how when you're looking, you can kind of see the back wire peeking through there. We can fix that easily by just going on the back and just pushing that wire this way. So it's still locked in the back, but just we fixed the top of it. So now from the front, just like a little window. Okay, see the wires all starting to get discombobulated here. So what I'm gonna do now, because we have a round stone that we need to put in, we need to really open these up. So you can use your fingers, or if you want, you can kind of get in there with your pliers, whatever you are finding to be easier. And you want to open this up like that. And once you've opened it up, we can work on getting this little round stone in there. So it's going to go like this. And it's kind of hard to do in the air, but when you're doing this, just put it down flat on like a table and it'll be much easier for you. But I have to kind of press on this, that's why you can't see, because I'm trying to hold it in the air. So you're bending these around your stone. And then the same thing, these little kind of indents that I put down there. I'm gonna do that here so that my wires kind of come together like that. All right, so coming back with this half round wire, and I know this other wire is kind of in the way, we'll fix it in a sec. So I'm grabbing the end of this, I'm wrapping it around and around, and I'm bringing it through this little window, just pulling it through, and now bringing it to the back. See that little wrap that gets formed there, that one little wrap, and then bringing it to the back again. Through the window again, to the back this time, and just pulling on it. So now it's formed two little wraps. Two little wraps there. This is basically just to secure the end of this wire so it doesn't unravel. If you didn't follow that, or if you accidentally did yours different, it doesn't really matter that much. It'll be fine. So now we have it sticking out the back there. I'll cut it in a sec. I basically want to make my bail first, and then I'll fix up all the little wire ends. So for the bail, we're taking the two frontmost wires, raising them up, and then these back wires, we're just going to bend it out of the way just a little bit. And we're going to continue with this wire. So right now it's kind of going around. Just going to continue bringing it around. And now, instead of bringing it around everything, we're bringing it around just those front two wires. And because it's connected to the spool, we need to just kind of guide it. So I'm guiding it with my right hand, and with my left hand I'm turning the piece. And that's how I am wrapping it around for the bail. So I'm going to continue to do that off camera for just a little bit longer till it gets tall enough to be the bail. All right, so this is tall enough now for my bail. I trimmed the wire, and I kind of pressed the little wire end down here on the back of the bail. So you just want to go over everything and just press it down and flatten that half round wire. So now you have the back, now you have the bail completed, and the wire end is on the back. And now we can fix up those other wire ends that we have going on here. So this top one, here it is coming in the back. I'm just gonna pull on it a little bit. And then I'm just gonna trim it really short. as short as you can, just get right in there. And then with your pliers, you can just kind of squish that down, just press down that little end there. And so now it's hidden away inside of the frame, and there's no more wires up here. Before I finish off these wires, what I'm gonna do is, let me see which one is which. Okay, so here we have this wire coming from front to back here on the bottom. I'm just gonna pull on that a little. I will trim it off in a minute. And then we have this wire that we just wrapped it around a few times and just kind of left it. Here it is. So this wire, we're gonna bring it's going naturally towards the back. We're gonna bring it from back to front through the little frame here. Just pull on it a little bit there. And then back to the back, so it's made like one little wrap, just like that. And then here, I'm gonna bring it around and through the front window, we're gonna put it to the back. And then here on the back, we're just gonna pull it tight. Oops. So here's what that looks like up close. And the back. And now we can trim those short. So because this portion is going to be exposed, you want to really get in there and trim it so that the end ends up being inside of the frame rather than, you know, sticking out here. And then once you do that, you can just press down on that little wire end, just kind of squish it and see it's in there, and then same here. Now it's hidden, and it still looks like this from the front. All right, now we're gonna pop our stone in. So the little round Labradorite, I'm just gonna push it in there, and I want to move these wires here onto the back. Actually, here's a fun way to do that. That's a little different. So you can definitely do it the typical way that we did down here, just bend them. Or see this wire kind of coming up the back, the wire that we were gonna bend, here it is coming out here. Since we just have this tiny little wrap here, it's easy to pull this wire. So if you just take it and you just kind of pull on it, it starts to do this. So this is just an additional way that you could make the frame in the back a little smaller. See what happened there? We pulled on them. They pulled tighter, they became straighter, and we trapped the stone in the back. So, or you could definitely do it the other way as well, but I just wanted to show you in case you ended up liking this little trick. So here on the front, I'm just taking with my fingernail and just pushing that frontmost wire kind of onto the stone like that, so that I can get in there with my little pliers. And then I'm just gonna get in there and make a little bend, just like we did on the bottom there. Get in there, make a little bend. And now the stone is trapped because the frame is smaller in the front. And here's what it looks like so far. All right, so all we have to do now is just finish up the bail and these excess wires. Now, in a lot of my other tutorials, when we end whatever we're doing down here, we end up in this situation. So if you like the way that some of my other tutorials do the bail and the decoration there, you can just follow that along. You don't have to do it exactly like in this video, but in this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the back 2 wires. I'm basically trying to get rid of them so I have less wires to deal with here. And then see what I'm doing there? Instead of just bending them down, I'm putting a little bend like this with my pliers so that when I bend them, they're really flat up against the back there. And then I'm just gonna trim them. And now they're pretty much out of the way there. Now you can feel the little ends of them, so you do have to cover this area up, which I will do. You can kind of press down on them if you need to. But basically what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take these 2 wires and I'm gonna separate them, 1 on each side. And then the bail, so you can bend it around some bail making pliers or round nose pliers, or you can just bend it by hand like I'm doing here. But you just want to get those ends through here, through this gap. And then just guide that with your pliers until you have made the shape of your bail. All right, so I'm just gonna pull on these wires individually so they're coming through here nice and tight. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move them to the side like this. And I'm gonna take this wire, the side wire, and I'm bringing it up and I'm bending it in this kind of little bend here, little shape. And then I'm bringing it to the back and I'm trimming it off and I'm giving myself a little end there. And then that little end is going to get tucked away, so I'm turning it inwards with my pliers. And then I'm squishing that down so it's in there and the wire is attached. You can kind of see it in there from the front. So I'm just gonna squish that some more. And now with these 2 wires that are from the bail that are coming up, now that we have that little curvature here, we can kind of follow it along and bend these wires with that curve like that. And I'm gonna trim them not super short, but just like a little shorter, because when they're really long, it's kind of hard to work with them. I want to tuck them through the bail, and it's hard to do that if they're like super duper long. So I'm just taking those little ends, kind of giving them a little curve, and there we go. Now I got them through the bail. I'm just gonna help very gently pull them through. Don't pull too hard because you don't want to misshape that little curvature that you created. So here, what I'm going to do, see how there's 2 of them? The bottom one, there, you can see better this way. Here's the bottom one. What I want to do with that one is I just want to get rid of it. So I'm going to trim it in such a way that there's just the tiniest little end of it. Here, let me zoom in actually. Maybe you can see better this way. See the little end of it right there? So I want that little end, like I want this to be like a loop, and so the little end is gonna touch the wire itself. So you just kind of want to close that little loop and push that little, might be easier to actually do this way, even though it's harder to see, but push that little wire end so it's out of the way and it's kind of going all the way around. So now the wire end is kind of in there, and instead of poking like up, it's poking down into the wire. So like you can't see it from the front. You can kind of see it here from the side, but you can't feel it. So then the other wire, we're just gonna bring that all the way around. I can kind of zoom out a little now. And you can, if you don't like little loops, little swirls, you can just trim it and tuck it into the bail. But I'm trimming it and leaving myself a nice end so I can use my round nose pliers and I can make a little swirl. But you don't have to make a swirl if you don't like. You can just tuck that end of wire away. But if you're gonna make a swirl, then just with your with your round nose pliers, I like to squish the little end and then just kind of turn it into this little swirl shape. And now you just want to press that down with your pliers. So from the front, you can't even really see that swirl unless you kind of bend it forward. It's just kind of a secret hidden decorative swirl there. And now all we have left is we have this one little piece of wire. So I'm just going to bring that across the front there, just like that, and bring it to the back. And what you can do is you can trim that and tuck it into the bail, just like, or into the frame, just like we did up here, just right under the bail there. Or if you want to add more to this piece, you can just follow it along and bring it all the way around like this. And you can do that more than once. Then you get this kind of look. It's just more wire there, if you like. It's up to you whether you like more or less wire. I'm gonna keep bringing it around, and once I get to the front this last time, I'm gonna trim it. It's up to you whether you trim it back here and you tuck it in the back, or you trim it here in the front and you tuck it into the front. But if you do what I just did and you trim it off and tuck it in the front, you have this little area. So it's up to you whether you like it or not. Now, see, when we're looking in the frame, we can kind of see these little, here it's these little wires that we pulled on. So just like we fixed the ones in the, on the bottom there, you can kind of get in there and just move these a little closer to the edge of the frame, so that from the front they're not visible. I mean, unless it doesn't bother you. It doesn't necessarily bother me. Just if you wanted to have like a clear little window there. So now I'm just gonna take one final look. I'm gonna adjust everything because it could have moved out of place and, you know, become a little asymmetrical the way these two stones are positioned. So it's all good now. It's all set, and we've made this tiny little double stone pendant, and here's what it kind of looks like from all the different angles. From the back, we've got a nice bail here. It's a good size, even though this pendant's really small. I think most necklaces will fit through there. And so that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.